Hello and welcome. This is the Zen community of Oregon, making the teachings of the Buddha Dharma accessible to support your practice. New episodes air every week.
I take refuge in Buddha, and I take refuge in Dharma, and I take refuge in this Sangha. So what is being given now? In one of my groups the other day, someone shared a trick for helping access gratitude. And that trick is to imagine or think or feel that this is your last. And so this is our last Dharma talk that we'll ever hear. And this is the last time that we'll see each other. This is the last time we'll see the light of day. And this is the last breath. And that was the last frog croak. Did you hear it? So how precious, when we think of it in this way, how precious it all is. And that's true. It's so precious. And yet we don't appreciate that a lot of the time. And this practice is here, that trick and our practice is here to help us open up to the wonder and the preciousness and the gift that this life is. I want to share with you an Ikkyu poem. He says, studying text and stiff meditation can make you lose your original mind. A solitary tune by a fisherman, though, can be an invaluable treasure. Dusk rain, the moon peeking in and out of the clouds. Elegant beyond words, he chants his songs, night after night. Stiff meditation can make you lose your original mind. You feel that? That's the challenge of the Sesshin form. It's so tight. It's so tight that it can make us tense and stiffen us, or maybe it just reveals the tension that's already there. It's hard to say. We even talk about holding the posture and holding the mind. Sometimes Sesshin is likened to putting a snake inside of a bamboo tube. It wants to wiggle around, but it's stuck in that tube. I was at a session once, and it was right before Sesshin, and we were in the kitchen, and a guy comes in and he says, okay, here we go again. This is Epitahoma, for those of you who know it, a Harada Roshi Sesshin. And he says, okay, here we go again. Sesshin is for those of us who love to suffer. And then I said, my young 27-year-old idealistic self said, what do you mean I love Sesshin? And he said, oh, you're one of those. So we all have our karma. But Sesshin is hard, and it is a tight container. And Zazen is a tight form. There's a very specific way to sit and be still. And you may ask yourself, and I ask myself, why do we do this? Why do we make ourselves suffer, or so it seems? Why do we put ourselves willingly into this tight form where we don't have any wiggle room? One answer to that is that it's a skillful means. They say that the snake doesn't know it's a snake until you put it in the tube. And also the snake doesn't know how to come to rest, perhaps, until it's in that tube for a while. And it's thrashing and it's hurting. And then it realizes at some point that it can just, this tube is actually the perfect shape for it. It's just long and narrow. It's perfect for a snake. Dogen Zenji says that Zazen is the gate to joy and ease. Hakuin Zenji says Zazen is the gateway to freedom. Zazen Samadhi, the gateway. I'll read a little bit from Dogen Bendowa. I don't know exactly how to say that. All Buddha Tathagatas, all awake thus come ones, together have been simply transmitting wondrous Dharma and actualizing Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. It's just a fancy word for freedom, for which there is an unsurpassable, unfabricated, wondrous method. It says that wondrous method can also be translated as subtle craft. The subtle craft. This wondrous Dharma, which has been transmitted only from Buddha to Buddha without deviation, has as its criterion Jijuyu Sammai, which is translated something like self-fulfilling samadhi or self-enjoyment samadhi. Samadhi being unification. For disporting oneself freely in this samadhi, practicing zazen in an upright posture is the true gate. Although this Dharma is abundantly inherent in each person, it is not manifested without practice. It is not attained without realization. When you let go, the Dharma fills your hands. When you let go, the Dharma fills your hands. It is not without the boundary of one, it is not within the boundary of one or many. When you try to speak, it fills your mouth. It is not limited to vertical or horizontal. Buddhas continuously dwell in and maintain this Dharma, yet no trace of conceptualization remains. Living beings constantly function in and use this Dharma, yet it does not appear in their perception. We don't see it, we don't notice it. That's just the opening of this talk called Wholehearted Practice of the Way. So, Zazen is a gateway. It's a skillful means. Sesshin is a gateway. It's a skillful means to help us to unify ourselves. Actually, the word Sesshin means to gather the heart-mind, or sometimes it's translated as to touch the heart-mind into a unified experience, recognition. So we take the posture and we commit to stillness, and it's hard, usually, sometimes, especially in the beginning. And we commit to presence. We take up a practice. Vansho said this morning, Zazen is embodiment. Embodiment can mean embodiment of this body, this what we think of as our body. The spine, the breath, the belly, the heart, the hands. And embodiment can also mean the larger body, the universal body. And this is the direction of the practice of embodiment, is it may begin with just what we feel or think of as this isolated body. But as we continue there, we recognize that it's actually not separate from what's called the universal body. The one body, the large body. The sound, does that happen inside the body or outside the body? When we get real intimate, so this embodiment includes everything. And we renounce conceptualization. We renounce thinking. We say cut off in that chant, right? Cut off all useless thoughts and words. But that's not quite the attitude, as Vansho said yesterday. That's a kind of aggressive phrase that can be useful sometimes, huh? No. I'm not going to follow that thought, right? It's like you're here and these thoughts are all kind of around the outside. They're trying to get in. No. Like a samurai or something. And that's a tight practice, right? That's useful. It can be useful. And that's not how we want to ultimately live our lives. There's a beautiful phrase from Francis Lucille, who's a non-dual teacher. He says, "True meditation is a universal yes to everyone and everything." But in order to really actualize that, sometimes we have to do some cutting, right? Like the metaphor of the tree that I was talking about. This is the skillful means of our concentration practice. But actually, more often, it's not about cutting, it's about giving the emphasis, right? So we let the thoughts be like subtitles over there, down there, but we give the emphasis to the direct experience. That could be the direct experience of our chosen practice, the breath, the sound, sensations in the body. It could be the direct experience of the source of thinking, which I was talking about the other day, which is also just sensations in the body. So it's always very simple. Where we're bringing our attention is to the living reality before the thought or under the thought. And it's not that we're necessarily pushing away the thoughts. Actually, just like the line says, attempts to stop activity will fill you with activity, right? We all have experienced that. And so that's, even in the cutting, we're not putting the emphasis on the thought. We're just using a strong energy to put the emphasis on the breath or on the sensations on the foot or on the field of sound. Where the Tibetans have this beautiful way to demonstrate this kind of strong energy or intention. So you can take your fist and just clench it, and then open it, and then clench it again, and then open it. And now imagine that you're going to clench it, go to clench it, but don't. So you see that strength, you feel that strength of intention that's not, it's just, it all goes there. So that's when we're, this kind of effort, this barometer of effort, and does it need to be stronger sometimes, or can it relax sometimes? It's always changing. And we bring as much kindness as possible, as much understanding, not criticizing ourselves, right? We all do that. We all do that. And that hurts, and we see that happen over and over. You're not practicing good enough. You're not good enough. You're not doing that, this, and the perfectionist, and it manifests in all the little things: how we bow, how we walk, how we, where we put, everything, right? And we notice that, and we bring kindness. So full intention with kindness. And a lot of the teachings, I'm going to share a teaching about this kind of wholehearted devotion to the non-conceptual realm. And just like this teaching, a lot of the teachings that we hear, they don't have this element of kindness in them. They're kind of like samurai teachings. They're just like, cut it off. And we have to notice when that is skillful and when that is hurting us. And then bring kindness. Actually, Chosen Roshi is the first Zen teacher to bring loving kindness practice formally into a Zen practice center. So this is something maybe that's just more important for us Westerners because we have such strong inner critics. And they can debilitate us and make our life misery. So how to devote ourselves fully and not be mean. So this is from Huang Po. This is one of my favorite Zen books. Huang Po is the teacher of Rinzai. He also is named Obaku in Japanese. And this book is called On the Transmission of Mind. If you would only spend all of your time walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, learning to halt the concept-forming activities of your own mind, you could be sure of ultimately attaining the goal. The goal being freedom, the goal being ease of heart. If you would spend all of your time, this is a high standard, but it can inspire us, huh? Walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, learning to halt the concept-forming activities of your own mind, you would be sure of ultimately attaining the goal. Since your strength is insufficient, you might not be able to transcend samsara in a single leap, but after 5 or 10 years, you surely would have made a good beginning. So just like Bancho was saying, we have to have patience. This practice works, but it takes time. And we can't expect that in 4 days we're going to attain enlightenment. And Who knows? And this is enlightenment. Huh? So, this is a call for a wholehearted practice. It says, since your strength is insufficient, you might not be able to transcend samsara in a single leap, but after 5 or 10 years, you would surely have made a good beginning and be able to make further progress spontaneously. So that's the interesting thing about the gateway of Zazen, which is this wholehearted, continuous emphasis on the immediate, direct experience, and which is Sesshin. If we can just be as present as possible every moment, in the zendo, out of the zendo, eating, walking, sitting, sleeping, just this, without aggression. That's a subtle craft. So he says you do that, and then you might be able to make further progress spontaneously. So this speaks to how we have this gateway, and then what can emerge? What can be manifested or seen? The clarity of mind, the ease of heart. It can just suddenly, we're just, and all of a sudden, I'm sure all of us have had this, at least a taste of this. Just the tension, the striving, the worry, releasing. The mind being so into, and then all of a sudden, like here. We can't say it was because of our practice, but there's something there. I'll read a little more of this. It is because you are not that sort of person that you feel obliged to employ your mind studying dhyana and studying the way, studying meditation, studying the way. What has all that got to do with Buddhism? So this is sort of the radical, direct approach of Zen, to just throw out all the sutras. You hear those stories, burning the sutras. In some monasteries, you're not allowed to read. We say during session, don't read, don't write. Don't study, because it's about looking into the direct experience of our own mind, of our own suffering, of our own liberation, each moment. What is this? He says, so it is said that all the Tathagata taught was just to convert people. It is like pretending yellow leaves are real gold just to stop the flow of a child's tears. It must by no means be regarded as though it were ultimate truth. So that line we have in the Song of the Grassroof Hermitage. It says, thousands of words, myriad of interpretations are only to free us from obstructions. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, do not separate from the skin bag here and now. So all the teachings, the path, the story of enlightenment, the story of suffering and what suffering is and how to get out of it, and all of that are just ways to encourage us to keep looking, to keep penetrating the actual life. Like it says in the Heart Sutra, there is no suffering. There is no cessation of suffering. There is no path. There is no enlightenment, attainment. With nothing to attain, a bodhisattva relies on prajna paramita. What is prajna paramita? This is prajna paramita. This. It must be, so it is said that the Tathagata taught was, what all the Tathagata taught was just to convert people. It was like pretending yellow leaves are real gold just to stop the flow of a child's tears. It must by no means be regarded as though it were ultimate truth. So you can ask yourself, are you believing the story, even the Dharma story, that suffering is real, that I'm going to get somewhere? If you take it for truth, you are no member of our sect, and what bearing can it have on your original substance? So the sutra says, what is called supreme perfect wisdom implies that there is really nothing whatever to be attained. If you are also able to understand this, you will realize that the way of the Buddhas and the way of the devils are equally wide of the mark. The original pure, glistening universe is neither square nor round, big nor small. It is without any distinctions as long or short. It is beyond attachment and activity, ignorance and enlightenment. You must see clearly that there is really nothing at all. No humans and no Buddhas. Humans and Buddhas are concepts. The great kilocosms, numberless as grains of sand, are mere bubbles. All wisdom and holiness are but streaks of lightning. The Dharmakaya from ancient times until today, the Dharmakaya means the truth body. The Dharmakaya from ancient times until today, together with the Buddhas and the patriarchs, is one. How can it lack a single hair of anything? So this whole story that we are lacking something, although useful, is not true. And in fact, no concept is ever true. No idea about what's going on, or what this practice is, or what's happening here is ever true. Where does that leave us? It says, even if you understand this, you must make the most strenuous efforts. Throughout this life, you can never be certain of living long enough to take another breath. Hogen Roshi often says when somebody has an opening, he says, this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of practice. So we have some taste of this freedom, we have some taste of this living reality below thought. And then we spend the rest of our lives clarifying that, devoting ourselves to that, loving that, opening that freedom. Because it can close up just like that. You might say, oh, it never closes up. Yeah, it never closes up, but do you see that? Do you feel that? And this is why we have practice. So we have this admonition to practice hard. Have you heard that? Sit hard, practice hard. And I once heard a quote from Koben Shino Roshi. He says, everyone says, practice hard, sit hard. He says, I say, sit soft. So we have to be our own master and discern when we need to practice hard. You know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes a a lot of effort, right? Stay with it. And after we do that for a while, we can get pretty tight. And then we have to discern when it's time to sit soft, when it's time to open the hands and just feel the way the feet love the floor. Maizumi Roshi, in a writing I once heard him say, he said, actually, Zazen should be comfortable. So that's the direction that we're going in. Sometimes I think that we should have like a body training course before we let people do session because it's hard to sit comfortably. And maybe it used to be easier because the cultures in which this practice was maintained were cultures where they sat on the floor all day long, working and doing handicrafts and writing and everything, squatting. But in our culture, we don't. We're always standing or sitting in a chair or on a couch. And so the body is not accustomed. And also, we're just not accustomed to sitting still. So even when we're sitting in the chair, the body doesn't know how to find its like proper alignment. And so this is something that we explore in how to sit soft, is how to find the comfort in the body. And that has to do a lot with the alignment of the spine, which takes time to find. You won't necessarily find it in one session, but you might touch it. My first teacher would say that it takes 10 years of monthly session to find your posture. So that's encouraging, huh? We're never going to find it. And just this posture is it. We have to always, we're full of paradoxes here. We have to remember the opposite, right? Every posture is it. Huh? And we can find that freedom in the spine, and then the release of the face, of the jaw, of the shoulders, of the heart. Let the belly hang out. Let the earth just receive us, hold us. So we don't have to do the holding, the earth does the holding. Sometimes I like to envision a baby. If you've ever seen a baby sit upright, they're just so comfortable, so open. And then we can envision that. And what's so interesting, this is like a scientific thing, right? Where there's this thing called mimicking that happens. So if you see a body, or imagine a body sitting in a comfortable way. So you could also imagine like another meditator that you feel has a very easeful posture. And you just imagine that, then your body will start to feel the same ways that imagined body. So you imagine the baby, or you can imagine a mountain, which is completely high and lifted, but also totally grounded. So these are just little ways that we can work to find ease in the posture. Speaking of ease, I'm going to read a little bit from this book called Old Man Basking in the Sun. Isn't that lovely? I could just read that. Old man basking in the sun. Huh? This is the kind of ease that the Dharma gate of Zazen can open up for us. And it is possible too to feel that kind of ease when there's discomfort in the body. So that's something to know and to explore. Even when there's discomfort, where can I find ease? So through the gate of Zazen Samadhi, through the gate of Sesshin, this awake mind can reveal itself, shining. And this is a writing from one of the Tibetan masters, Longchenpa, translated by Keith Dowman, talking about the radiance of the sun. The sun, it's not the sun outside, it's the sun of our mind, it's the sun of our own heart shining. We can bask in it. In the reality of every act and event, unthinking, I reveal freedom by letting go. I reveal freedom by letting go. This impurity, it is samsaric delusion, to leave the doors of the senses wide open. The crux is freely resting contemplation. And the precept is change nothing. With a mind that does not cling to appearances, that cannot be grasped, looking with eyes that are uninvolved, we are drawn along the reality path of absence, conveyed to the source of no view and no meditation. We are one with the ideal of effortless non-action, where there is no end to the light. So our practice of meditation ultimately leads us to a practice that we could call non-meditation, which of course is not a practice. It's a simply resting in the light of our own awake heart-mind, or resting as the light of our own awake heart-mind. We are one with effortless non-action. In the nature of mind free from anxiety, light form is without hope and fear. I, Samantabhadra, reveal the contemplation of confident ease. It's interesting, this is Samantabhadra, and Samantabhadra is the bodhisattva of great activity, who is in this great resting, in this great effortless non-action. This is one of the paradoxes of our practice. We have like the total surrender, the complete letting go, and then we have the bodhisattva ideal and the vow to save all beings, and the sage entering the marketplace and responding to every being and helping them. So those are not opposite. Surrender, letting go is not opposite to powerful action, to complete action, to caring action. In Sesshin, we emphasize the former. We really get rooted. We really get rooted in the letting go aspect, in the basking in the light aspect. Like Bansho said, if you don't understand any of this, if it doesn't make sense to you, you don't resonate with it, or you disagree with it, just appreciate the autumn sun. It's probably a better Dharma advice than any of this. Appreciate our life. You know, it's all about going beyond the concepts, the teachings. All these teachings are only to point us to what is. And this entering of the direct experience without knowing. There's this wonderful story of Deepa Ma, Burmese maybe she's Indian meditation master, but she's practiced in Burma, I think. Or maybe with a Burmese teacher. And she had this opening one once where she described it, and the only way she could describe it was, I simply didn't know. And this is another practice that we can take on. The practice of not knowing, and one way to access it, like we did at the beginning, accessing gratitude for like this is the last, we can access not knowing by pretending that this is the first. I shared this with one of the groups the other night, so you can just imagine that you have just landed in this body. You have no context, literally no context for what's going on. It's like you are an alien or something and you just like landed here. You're like inhabiting this body. And you don't know what's going on. You don't know why these words are coming out or why these people are all sitting here. Or what any of it's called. We all, or most of us, know this phrase, not knowing is most intimate. Where did I put my clock? Did you see where I put my clock? Okay, well, I think I have a few more minutes. Maizumi Roshi was once asked, what is the purpose of Zen? And he responded, it's to become as stupid as possible. Not knowing. It all becomes very enjoyable then, very interesting. And gratitude and generosity naturally arise when we're not holding so tight to what's going on and what we need and who we are, what we have to do. Just not knowing. Let me read this. I think many people know this story about, it's considered the first transmission of Zen, Mahakasyapa. I'll just read it. Once at Vulture Peak in India, before an assembly of innumerable beings gathered to hear the teaching, the world-honored one, Shakyamuni Buddha, simply held up a flower in silence. The venerable yogin Mahakasyapa broke into a smile. The Buddha then said, I have the treasury of the eye of truth, the wondrous mind of nirvana, which I now entrust to Mahakasyapa. Spread it through the future and never let it die out. So this is said to be the first Zen transmission. And then one of our ancestors comments, Longje Huihui says, Mahakasyapa did not know the world-honored one's samadhi. Because that's what we think, right? He knew his samadhi. He says, no, he did not know the world-honored one's samadhi. And Ananda did not know Mahakasyapa's samadhi. Ananda was the next ancestor. And Shanavasan, the next ancestor, did not know Ananda's samadhi. Up until now, although I have samadhi, you do not know it. And then Ehe Dogen says, the world-honored one did not know the world-honored one's samadhi. Mahakasyapa did not know Mahakasyapa's samadhi. Ananda did not know Ananda's samadhi. Shanavasan did not know Shanavasan's samadhi. I have samadhi, but I do not know it. You have samadhi, but you do not know it. Dogen also said, Mahakasyapa's face breaking into a smile has not yet ceased. So not knowing is most intimate. I'll close with a poem from Ikkyu. Whatever it's called, sick of the names. Sick of it, whatever it's called. Sick of the names. I dedicate every pore to what's here.
Thank you for listening to the Zen Community of Oregon podcast, and thank you for your practice. New episodes air every week. Please consider making a donation at zendust.org. Your support supports us.